Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello, and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I'm so excited for this very next guest. I just realized that I was an old-time listener of her podcast like a few years ago, and then I don't know why I didn't make the connection sooner, maybe because my brain's always running a mile a minute, but hence the reason why I need to do more meditation. So we have today Kelly Smith. She is the founder of Yoga for You, the host of iTunes podcast, Mindful in Minutes, and Meditation Mama. She is incredible. So I'm super excited for you to hear from her, to learn if you've been struggling with creating a meditation practice. Kelly does a really great job of teaching you how to find your own approach. So she doesn't have like a one size fits all, just like in nutrition, there's no one size fits all approach. So she does a really good job of helping you kind of figure out what works best for you. So I'm super excited to have Kelly on the podcast. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to chatting.
You're so welcome. So the first question I always have my guests answer is to just introduce yourself by sharing who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do what you do.
Sure. So I'm Kelly, and I am a yoga and meditation teacher. So I have Yoga for You, which is a location-independent yoga and meditation school. So I do a lot of master trainings like in Yoga Nidra, Restorative yoga, and meditation. And then I'm probably best known for my guided meditations on my podcast, Mindful in Minutes. And so, you probably best know me for leading those guided meditations and then also having some kind of organic conversations just about connecting to your true self and your soul and kind of finding an authentic and joyful life. So that's what I do. Why I do it is because I just want people to be happy. That is like my wish for everyone. And so I find so much fulfillment in helping people just be a little less stressed, a little less anxious, or find a little bit of happiness, or teach people how to then be a teacher in a style that then can help others find their happiness and their joy. So that's really, I just want people to be happy and have a nice life. And so that's why I do that, to hopefully help them with that.
Yeah, that's really special. Was there ever a time in your life where you were really, really unhappy? Like, is that why you're so passionate about wanting others to be happy? Or is it just who you are? I mean, it could be. I mean, I remember, like for me, I was always like so happy. I just want everybody to be happy. And then the world made me miserable. And like, now I want everyone to be happy.
Yes. So there's definitely, like, I would say one of the biggest catalysts into what I do is when I was a teenager, my mom had stage 3 breast cancer and I was her caregiver. And she is thankfully, she's in remission now and is still with us, which is amazing. But that was, obviously a very hard time in my life. And there's been other times that have been just really, really difficult and hard. And I think that, that these tools like yoga and meditation and like this inner work stuff helped me so much then that I like sharing it with other people. But I think I've always just, I don't know, maybe I am just like a unique, like a special person. But I just want people to be happy. And I don't like, I guess even when I was little, like when I was a baby, I'd laugh. And my mom was just telling me the other day, because now I have a little baby. And so she always tells me about when I'm a baby. But she said I would just laugh and I was so fat and my belly would jiggle everywhere and I would laugh and then everyone else would laugh and it was contagious. And there's just something about just like joy and helping people find their joy and, helping people to move from maybe not so happy or being in those tougher places to then, finding a little bit of relief from that. And I just, I don't know if there's one particular way, maybe I'm just extra special, but
it sounds like I do, but that's why I was like, it could be like, some people I think are like saying they're just born with it. Like some people are just born with like an innate just like want to help others, want to be good to others. And then others, it comes from like dark places, but I find it's often a combination of the two. Right. So you were always going to do something giving on this earth, like you were always going to give, but the experiences that you've had probably fueled that even more so.
Yeah. And how can you ever really know like true joy if you've never really known like true sadness?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like once you've felt that for, in your own heart, it's hard. Like you never want other people to feel that in their heart. Or if you know that they are feeling it, you want to help them not feel it because it really is just the worst feeling.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So you mentioned a couple different practices. So I'd like to kind of touch on each of them. The first one I'd like to know is, what is Yoga Nidra? Is it different than how does that differ from regular yoga? Please explain.
Yes, it's very different. And I wouldn't say it's like the most common thing, but I think it's really special. And what it is it is technically a yoga practice, but you're lying down in like Shavasana or lying, in your final resting pose the whole time. So it feels kind of like a long meditation where I am, leading you through. It's usually like 30 to 40 minutes and I'm talking you through the whole thing. And you're lying there in Shavasana. You get like pillows and blankets. It's like this little yoga sleepover. It's like the coziest thing. And actually what we're doing is we're taking a journey through what's called the koshas, which are the different layers of our being. So like the physical body, the energetic body, the emotional body, and you work all your way through those until you're brought face to face with the true self, or in Yoga Nidra, we call it Atman. And that's where you plant a seed of intention, a positive seed of intention. So you can do Yoga Nidra for anything, anxiety relief, stress relief. You could do one for finding happiness or, cultivating or manifesting something. And so, does that help explain it?
Yeah, really cool. Definitely. So do people like go to classes for that, or is that something
you can?
Okay.
That's a great question. Because usually people are like, what do I do if I'm like not moving? Is it really yoga? And it is, but you go and similar to, I'm sure we'll talk about restorative yoga in a moment. But since there isn't a lot of movement, you still can go, do a class, and you just like I said, it kind of feels like this little yoga sleepover because you want to get so comfortable. The idea is that you get so comfortable and you're basically putting like your body to sleep, because Yoga Nidra means yogic sleep, not yoga nap. Although, like, if you're my mom, she always naps through Yoga Nidra practices.
Not for nothing. I don't want to sidetrack. Maybe we could talk about it later. But I also feel like a lot of people need to be napping more, or just lying 100%. Down more, or just slowing down more. And so if you nap, you probably needed it.
And that's what I always tell her, people that fall asleep. I'm like, your body's going to prioritize needing to sleep over taking a journey to the true self any day. Get caught up on your rest first, and then have your, body be rested and restored. Then we can worry about, the journey to the soul. But I bet not everyone snores like my mother. That's the real problem. But yes. So you can go to a class. You could do it one-on-one. You can listen to it. I have some recordings of it on my podcast. You can do just audio, but you go and you just get all comfy, cozy, and just you create, as a teacher, you just create the most beautiful, relaxing environment, and dim lights and soft music. And it just feels so good and restful and nourishing. And like you said, we really need to be resting more as people and slowing down. And that's part of what I love. I do still teach vinyasa or flow classes. But my passion is the slower stuff. Yoga Nidra, restorative yoga, which is, and have you ever done that one before?
Restorative yoga I've done. Yeah.
Yes. So you get all the props, and you do maybe 5 to 8 poses in an hour, and you use the props to take the tension off your body. And you really kind of slow down and try to turn inward and restore instead of put tension in with hard movement. So I love that one. That's another one I train in. And then of course, meditation. But I love the slower, more restful, restorative. I just feel we need that.
Well, you're right. We need it, but I will just speak from experience that it's more uncomfortable than flow or vinyasa. Vinyasa was always my favorite, or before vinyasa, I loved power yoga. Because when you come from a fitness, hard, intense, athletic background, this is the mindset. I know everyone listening that's ever worked out experiences this. They almost feel like yoga is not a workout. Yes. But that you don't realize there's so much more to yoga than being a workout. And actually for so long when I would practice yoga, laying in Shavasana was the most uncomfortable part about it. It was the hardest part for me. So then doing a restorative yoga class, oh my God. I was like, this is supposed to be relaxing. I am twitching. Like, that was 100%. My beginning experience. I don't feel that way now, but I would love for you to speak to that because I think that a lot of people are thinking the same thing.
Oh, I used to be a Shavasana skipper. So I am a reformed Shavasana skipper. So I wasn't even the person that like would lay there and now there's, whatever, there's all these, I love a good yoga teacher joke. But there's all these, when you start teaching these slower practices, you have to prepare the teachers. It's like, people are going to lay there and they'll be like laying there and they're like doing these little finger things. They're like looking around. They're like they're like reaching for like their phone. I mean, it's a real thing. And this, again, from a reformed Shavasana skipper. And when I started practicing yoga when I was young because I was an athlete too. So I did it as cross training. As soon as we're done Shavasana, I roll up my mat, stick it under my arm, sneak out the door because I was like, well, I'm not burning any calories. So that's a waste, and continue on with my day. And I do think that is so, so common. And I love what you said where, it's a common misconception that yoga is just, the poses, it's, that power yoga, it's flowing, it's how many chaturangas can you do, how many down dogs. And there's actually 8 different limbs to yoga. And one of them is the poses, it's the asanas. And then there's 7 other limbs. There's breath work, there's meditation, there's concentration, there's the yamas and the niyamas, which are like how you interact with the world, how you interact with yourself. There's like bliss or like union with the self. Like there's 8 limbs to yoga and only one of them are the poses. And so I always think it's important to tell people like, when you go and you do your down dogs and things like that, that's great, but you're really only practicing like 1/8 of what yoga truly is, and that there's so much more to it. But I do really honor and recognize how hard being still can be, especially if you're so used to like the go, 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 and the do, and the mindset of like, I'm going to get here. I'm going to do my boot camp class. It's 40 minutes. I'm going to show up 30 seconds before it starts. I'm going to do my 40 minutes and I'm out the door because I have an appointment at this time. And then I'm doing that and all of these things, like stopping the spinning and the wheels turning for even just a few minutes can be so hard. But if that's where you're at, you probably need it the most. And learning how to be still and learning how to turn inward and to stop that constant spinning, that is a huge skill in and of itself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is a really timely reminder because the world, thank God, is starting to open back up. And I think, we could either have experienced this great pause, this huge slowdown that we were almost, depending on where you work, I will say, if you're in the health field, you probably still are on 100, unfortunately. But I know for a majority of people, we're kind of forced to kind of slow down, and it was uncomfortable for them. But now the world's starting to open back up. So you can go right back to the way you used to live your life and continue to hustle and go, 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 go. Or you can use the slowdown as a lesson and kind of create space for you to be uncomfortable for a moment, push past it, and then feel better that you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, that a lot of people, just given, we're being at home and I actually think it's kind of interesting because I think we've kind of gone like one of two ways, like how have we dealt with like quarantine and lockdowns and things like that. And I do think that there are some people I've noticed that have really wanted to take the time like alone to kind of master, like we're almost forced into slowing down, which has encouraged some people and inspired them to kind of like, I guess, cultivate that practice a little bit more. And then there's some of us that are kind of going the other way. And I feel like this a little bit where I'm feeling like a little antsy of like, okay, like, let's go. What are we doing? And so I do think it's a really timely reminder that just because things, can go back to the way they were, doesn't mean that it has to. Right. And that there is a way where you could try to find a little more balance if you wanted.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So you mentioned about like the 8 pillars of yoga. I love that. I know one that we definitely wanted to talk about today was meditation. So could you maybe speak to some of the benefits of meditation? Because I think a lot of people hear it's good for you, but I don't know if they understand really why. And then later I'd love to get into how does one commit to a practice of meditation?
Yeah. So there are so many benefits to meditation. I kind of like to talk about some of the physical, some of the mental, and some of the emotional. And then, your listeners can kind of decide which, honestly, we need all of them, right? We all need a little more physical, mental, emotional well-being. But in terms of physical benefits, studies have shown that when you meditate, it can lower your blood pressure, it can increase your circulation, it can improve your sleep, it can decrease insomnia, it can also decrease pain and inflammation. So one of the reasons that this is happening is basically when you're meditating, you're going from that fight or flight and you're going into the rest and digest. So you're basically turning the volume down on the part of the brain. It's called the amygdala, and it's kind of like the drama queen of your brain. It's like the pain, like emotion center, anxiety center of your brain. And what happens is this idea of like neuroplasticity, right? Our brain is always changing. We can, as we do different things, like our mind is still changing, like in terms of mass and gray matter and building different like connections and like, neuron pathways. And what happens is that as we experience more stress and anxiety and stressors, is the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that responds to those, gets bigger and stronger, and it becomes overactive. And it's actually overactive in most adults today. And what you do through meditation is actually you start deactivating the amygdala, and it starts to shrink in size and it starts to shrink in mass, making those stress and pain and anxiety responses smaller. So that's how we know that it's actually reducing like the pain signals and the anxiety signals. And then on the flip side, the parts of the brain that have to do with like higher cognitive function and problem solving and concentration, they get bigger and stronger. And so you're actually changing the makeup of your brain when you're meditating. And you only need about 10 minutes a day to do this. And then after maybe like 8-ish weeks of doing it for about 10 minutes a day, you'll actually, like if you were to go get like a brain scan done, you would be able to see the changes. And then, so of course that leads to then a lot of like emotional benefits. So if you're decreasing the part of the brain that's responsible for anxiety, you're going to experience less anxiety. If you're decreasing the part of the brain that, helps to contribute to depression, you're going to experience less depression or have less, symptoms of depression. You're going to be able to concentrate more. You're going to, people who meditate report being more connected to other people and to experience more compassion for others, but mostly for themselves as well. So it helps to kind of boost like your self-esteem and also, your feelings of self-worth, which is amazing. I'm trying to think I think those are all of my favorite benefits. That's not all of them. But those are my favorites.
No, those are like, those are so great.
Oh, it slows down aging too.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
that wants to do that.
From a gal that's in her 30s now.
Yeah.
I will take any, but it basically slows down the death of the cellular process. And so it reduces aging.
Yeah, it is super powerful. And I think we should probably speak to the fact that you don't have to be good at it for those 10 minutes a day that you're doing it. Like, because I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm not good at it. So like they don't do it, or I don't, like my mind always wanders. It's like,
yes. Or people always tell me like, I can't just sit and do nothing. Like, I don't know how to shut my brain off. And I'm like, well, don't, because if you shut your brain off, you're dead.
Yeah.
But, or people say, oh, I'm so ADD. And I like to remind people like, I actually do have like really intense ADHD. And so I love that point. You don't have to be good at it. I think there is no like good or bad meditation. It's truly just kind of like weightlifting, like for your brain, right? So how are you ever going to become stronger unless you go to the gym and you start lifting some weights? Like it's just one of those things, like, are you never going to exercise ever? Cause you're worried like that maybe it'll be uncomfortable or you won't be good at it. I mean, maybe for some people, yes, but you can't let that like stop you. And it's really, I just think of it as like training for your brain, but there is no like good or bad. You just do it.
No, I love that. So how would someone begin? Maybe they are interested in starting a simple meditation practice. How can someone create one that they can stick to?
Great question. So I always like to tell people that a great way to kind of ease into it is by using guided meditations. That's how my whole podcast got started. Because a lot of people, if you try to do one with less guidance, like if you just follow your breath or do something called like a present moment meditation, where you just try to open up your senses and be present, those are wonderful, amazing tools, but they can be tricky if you're just starting, because it does kind of feel like, okay, what do I do now? So sometimes listening to a short guided meditation can be one of your best tools for getting started and sticking with it, because you have a teacher that is then guiding you through your practice. So I usually encourage people to either do this for, I call it first 10 or last 10. So either the first 10 minutes of your day or the last 10 minutes of your day. The reason I encourage people to do this is because if you say, oh, at some point today, I'm going to meditate, something will always pop up. Or you say, oh, I'll do it over my lunch hour. Something always pops up. But hopefully every day you go to bed at night and you wake up the next morning. And that might be like the only consistent thing in your whole day. So either first 10 or last 10. And usually the way you know, if you're the kind of person that likes to hit the snooze button a bunch of times, you have a hard time getting out of bed, don't be overly ambitious and say, I'm going to get up 10 minutes earlier and meditate. Just set yourself up for success. If you know that's what you're like in the morning, do it the last 10 minutes of your day. Or if you're like me, and if you try to meditate the last 10 minutes of your day, you fall asleep, you might want to put it in those first 10 minutes of the day. So whichever one you think realistically is better for you and you're more likely to stick with, do that. And then you can just listen to a guided meditation. And then from there, you could start building out, maybe trying some practices that don't rely on a guide as much.
Yeah, no, honestly, guys, I like Kelly, your meditation, your podcast, like really were everything for me in the beginning of my journey. Like before that, I had tried stuff like, I think it was like I did like all the apps, like Headspace, Calm,
and like Insight Timer,
I did all the things. And not for that, they were pretty good. I mean, like, and you know, the thing was, it's crazy. Also, this, I think people need to know this. With Headspace, they start at like 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute, 5 minute. And then actually there was a point where I was like, okay, I actually got 5 minute went by too fast. Like I was like, at first 1 minute felt like an eternity. Right. So that was perfect for me then. And then when I really needed something a little bit more like that, I knew I needed 10 minutes, but it was hard for me to stay engaged on my own. Like your podcast was so great for that.
That's
so great.
I'm just blushing.
Yeah. No,
hearing that. It's amazing.
And you title them really, really great, like in a way where, you know, if I'm feeling anxious, I'll go to one that's titled for anxiety or, you know, so like, it's really, really great. We're not done, but just quickly, just plug your podcast so people can go subscribe to it.
Thank you. It's called Mindful in Minutes. So wherever you're listening to our voices now, just type it in the chat. Or if you are currently pregnant or recently postpartum, you can type in Meditation Mama, which is an offshoot that has that's my recent one. I created that when I was pregnant just recently. And so now there's guided meditations just to help you with your pregnancy and your postnatal journey as well.
That's awesome. Well, since you brought it up, I am curious because I work with a lot of, moms who just had a baby and they're postpartum. What has that experience been for you? Has it taught you anything new? Has it affirmed anything you already knew in regards to mindfulness and meditation and yoga and just your body and your mind and your soul? I'm just curious. I'm sure I hear like being a mom is like everyone is just, it's like magic. And I've never been through it, but I mean, it looks like magic. Like when I watch all my cousins and my friends and my family members just like grow a human and then have one. It's like the wildest thing. It's wild. It's literally wild. My favorite part is when I know like my best friend is pregnant right now and I'm pretty sure the baby is the size of a papaya right now. And but like before the baby was a pea. And then like pretty soon it's going to be like a cantaloupe. Like I just like, it's crazy.
And then you have to push it out. And then you think it's literally the size of like a horse.
Literally. It's just, oh my God. Yeah, it's incredible.
It is. I mean, it really is just like, it's all the thing. I mean, it's amazing and it's magical and it's so fulfilling, but it's also like exhausting and terrifying and scary and like just wild and insane. It's just like every emotion that ever, any feeling ever that you could experience, like you experience it when you become a mother. And so, I mean, there's parts of it that are just like, it literally, I just feel like the Grinch, where it's like your heart grows like 3 sizes, but then it's also like, you've never really known like a fear or like a worry than like the fear and a worry that like you feel like when you have this tiny baby and it's like sleeping and you're like, so do I just sleep and like let it sleep? But like, what if something happens and I'm not there? And, or like everything, I was just texting my mom this morning and I was like, everything is a danger. She sent me this little thing and we call him baby pork chop, like on my podcast and stuff. That's whatever. So we call him pork chop, but, so she was just like, oh, you think pork chop would like, these little musical instruments because he's very musical. And I was like, yeah, but I'm worried about the little metal pieces on it because I said, what if he likes to chew on things? What if he cut his gums? I'm like, everything's dangerous once you have a baby. But anyways, I'm getting distracted, but
no, but I hear you. How old is he now?
He is 6 months old.
Wow.
So and it really is just like everything. And it's also, so like in terms of like emotionally, it is like one of the greatest, but also one of the hardest things ever. And also just like having such a change in your life to go from like no kids to then like having this thing that's completely reliant on you. And you may be like feeding this baby with your body and, you grew it with your body, you gave birth to it with your body. And then there's the whole just transition of like, things change and, things like, obviously your body changes during pregnancy, but things just like feel different, but also are different. And like, to me, it almost just feels like, there's like 2 eras to my life, which was basically so far like before kids and after kids. And I don't know, it's like, and every woman, I'm sure, and you must hear this all the time from your clients, but like every woman's like postpartum journey is so different. There's definitely like similarities, but it's all just a completely unique journey. And I think that's what like motherhood is in general is, there's no like right or wrong way to do it, but each woman experiences it so differently, like physically and mentally and emotionally. But in terms of like mindfulness and yoga and things like that, I think the biggest takeaway is I've really had to learn how to change my expectations for myself and to recognize that like this season of life, this season of like motherhood, especially motherhood to like an infant, that means that I'm certainly not going to, we talked about prioritizing sleep over a journey to the soul. Like there's quite a while there. It's like my body just needed to heal. And I was so sleep deprived that, I wasn't practicing for a while because I was like, if I have any spare time, like I'm just going to sleep or like take a shower. And at first that was hard for me because that's not what I usually would do. I'm usually, trying to do all the things all the time. And so just being like, I just need to like survive right now and take care of myself. Like that was a big mindset change. And so I think just learning how to be kinder to myself and lowering my expectations, but also being okay with that and kind of celebrating that that's, that is what it is. And that's okay.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think that I would love to, I think I need to do like a whole other podcast about the pressure that postpartum women feel to like get their body back and to like do all the things. And exactly what you just said is true, is that the priority is to take care of this human that just came out of you, that is 110% dependent on you. Like the priority is not to get your body back. You have a mom bod because you're a mom bod because you are a mom now. Like,
and you also like, you never lost your body.
You never lost it. Yes.
And there's pressure too, to just all of a sudden, like, not even like bounce back physically, but all of a sudden to be like, well, when are you going back to work? Well, what about this? Well, what about that? And to seem like you have it all like together. Like people are really there and are wonderful and so loving for those first like few weeks. But it's almost like the older your kid gets, the more that, society and people expect you to totally just like have it together.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are women out there that do it. I certainly don't have it all together. So you're still just trying to figure it out. And it's very much a process, but there is just such a pressure, not just to bounce back physically, but to all of a sudden just be like, okay, I'm a mom now. And then you just like take it in stride, and then you take care of kids and you have a job and you run a household or whatever it is that you do. And it's just, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is. So this, I guess where my mind just wants to go right now, how does one not get caught up in that comparison though? Because it's like not only the pressure from society, but I feel like probably, like if we're talking about connecting to our true self, and that obviously is not comparing to somebody else. Like, how does someone stop the comparison and like get back to being who they are, trusting who they are, and just like being able to give themselves compassion and knowing that what they're doing is enough? And like, is there like a practice that other than meditation and yoga, like what help can help somebody do that?
Sure. So a few things. One, if there's a certain someone that you are comparing yourself to, and every time you find, every time, whether it's like an Instagram, account that you're following, or, someone that a friend of a friend that or whatever, like, stop following them. If there's a certain like someone or something, or if there's some kind of noise coming in that's making you feel like you're less than or feeling bad about yourself, like, mute that noise.
Yeah.
Stop following like that. For me, sometimes is really helpful. Cause it is really hard. At least I found it's really hard to not kind of compare yourself to like other mothers. And then, every parenting choice you make, like, the internet will tell you equally it's, the best thing to do this. And then the other people will say, no, that's like torturing your child. Don't ever do that. Like, you just have to try to drown out the noise and figure out, where do you like to get your information from? Like for us, like, my husband works in the medical field, so we like going to our pediatrician, and asking her about things. And so, muting the extra noise, but then also just recognizing this isn't just like for motherhood, just in general. Like, if something feels good and feels in alignment and feels like uplifting and like right to you, that means it's in alignment with like your true self or your soul. If it feels like it's weighing you down, if it's causing you, making you feel really like depressed and anxious, it's, just that kind of like, it just doesn't feel right, then it's not in alignment. Mm-hmm. And you just try to be kind to yourself and just try to do more of the things that feel like they are in alignment and do less of the things that aren't. So right now in my stage of life, if I'm making parenting choices, I have to just try to drown out the noise and say, okay, like, what seems like the best decision right now for me and my baby? And if it feels like it's good and right and aligned, then I know that's the right path. If it just doesn't feel right, I have to listen to that and honor that and not do it. And I think that when it comes to comparison, no matter what stage of life you're in, that you have to try to continue to do that. Like, does it feel good and right and in alignment? Yes, great. I'll continue to do it. Does it feel like it's weighing me down? It doesn't feel right. I need to do less of that. Mm-hmm. And we are all so unique, and we're all, there's no one on earth that is like you. There's no one on earth that is like me. Like, our souls are one of a kind. And when you are, you should then be able to take a one of a kind journey. I don't think it's fair to say we're all so different. Oh, but you should always do this and then that, and then check this box and check that box. And well, this person, is already on the cover of Yoga Journal and they're half your age. What have you done? And all this, It's like, you just have to recognize like you are one of a kind on a one of a kind journey, and to honor and to celebrate and to respect that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so powerful. It's interesting that you use the yoga example of like being on the cover of a yoga magazine, because like yoga can be quite competitive, although that's like literally not the point.
Like, it's very competitive.
But it's very competitive, like in the, the teacher space and everything. That's crazy.
It's very silly.
It's ironic. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So since we have a little bit of time, and you mentioned the 8 pillars of yoga, do you mind maybe going over them again and maybe sharing one that we might not know about?
Sure. Yeah. So usually like the 8 limbs, they come from this guy, Patanjali. It's from this book called the Yoga Sutras, or text, the Yoga Sutras. But basically, so we have like the 8 limbs to yoga, the 8 different components. And that's if you follow like a traditional, like a hatha yoga or a vinyasa yoga, any kind of a more like hatha style practice that you'd be familiar with, usually is part of like the 8-limb path or the 8-limb fold. So you have what we're familiar with, right? Asanas, we have the poses, we have breath work or pranayama, we have meditation, we have concentration, we have the yamas, which is like how you interact with yourself. Then you have the niyamas, which is like how you interact with like the world around you. Then you have like bliss or union. And then let me think about the ones I already listed.
I know sometimes it's hard listing. That's a long
list. 8 things.
8 things is a lot. Yeah, no. Because I put you on the spot.
Yes, no. And I said, okay, so there's concentrate. There's yamas, niyamas, asanas, pranayama. There's concentration. There is bliss.
Meditation?
Did I say it was I think meditation was the one I left out.
I think it's the one that we already know.
Yes, meditation. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, that one. I was like, which one? It is meditation.
Yeah.
And I love thinking about, sometimes you'll see it as like a tree, kind of like imagery, like these different branches. And I think it's so important. And what I love about, the 8 different limbs is that it really does just doing the poses, which is great. Don't get me wrong. Like that's so important. It feels wonderful to move your body. It's incredible. But you could move your body and you could do shapes, and do mobility training. You could do that any day of the week. And that's movement. But what is truly yoga is then trying to do all these things. So the one I'd love to dive into are are 2 are the yamas and the niyamas. And that's really how you interact with yourself and how you interact with the world around you, because that's where you really live and embody your yoga. So, and then there's, different ones within the yamas and the niyamas, but one that I love, it's the very first one, it's nonviolence. And a lot of times what we explore is not just kind of nonviolence in the traditional sense of don't cause harm to others. But it looks a lot at where are you being violent towards yourself? Is it through negative self-talk? Is it through, overly, I'm sure you see this a lot too, Tony, is it overly trying to control your body with food, right? Are you so focused on detoxing and becoming this, this vessel that you're actually harming your body and depleting it of what it needs? Is it, are you harmful to yourself by, overtraining or undertraining? Where are you causing harm to yourself? Not just, it's often, especially if you're in a yoga practice, one of those ways you can cause harm is through comparison, right? Always making yourself feel less than by comparing, or trying to build yourself up and try to be oh, well, I feel better about myself by comparing. So I really love exploring the yamas and the niyamas, because it really makes you think about how you show up as a person and how you practice your yoga off of the mat and how you show up in life. There's also truthfulness, which is, really dives into this piece of true self and authenticity. And I always love exploring, when we talk about truthfulness, how can you basically root your truthfulness in nonviolence. So for me, that looks how can you have an honest conversation with someone and be real with someone, but not in a space that's coming from harm, right? We all know that person in our life that's oh, well, I'm just being real, or, well, I'm just going to tell you how it is. And then what's coming after that is a sledgehammer to the face.
Yeah.
And it's not that there isn't validity necessarily in what they're saying. There might not be, but even about those conversations, thinking about how can I be truthful with someone or have an uncomfortable conversation, challenge someone, but do it in a way that isn't, intended to hurt them, but is coming from a better space. And so I love the yamas and the niyamas because it really does just challenge you to think about how you're showing up places and how you're interacting with yourself and just how you're a human in this world. And I think that's something that hopefully we're all giving some thought to, not just, now, but every day. It's something that we have been. If we haven't been, we can start doing it now. But just thinking about that and recognizing that's a practice of yoga too, in your mind and in your life and, where you just, how you show up in the world.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm learning so much today. I'm so excited.
Love learning. I love learning.
Great. I love it. My mind is blown right now. I love it. I remember listening to your podcast and you used to do workshops, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I do I do different workshops and I do retreats and then I do trainings are probably the 3 big things that I do.
Okay. Can you speak to each of those? Cause I'm curious. I'm curious into other ways that I can learn from you. And I'm sure people listening are wondering how they can learn from you. Because I feel you're a wealth of knowledge and we just literally tipped our fingers in it. Like we were like, or tipped our toes in it. I don't know what the right saying is, but there's so much more to learn, I feel like.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. So I do periodically do workshops and things, which is honestly just if there's something, either something that people either ask me a lot of questions about, or I don't know, do you get this a lot where you feel like it's like everyone woke up one day and had like the same thing on their mind? Yeah. Or like, I'll get like a ton of emails for like the exact same thing. And I'll be like, whoa, everyone woke up like curious about the chakras or something. Yeah. And I'm just like, I wonder what was in the water today. But, or if there's just something I really just want to talk about, I might do a workshop on it. I haven't done as many recently just because I've been easing back into work after, having a baby. Yeah. And, but yeah, I do periodically do workshops. And then I also do retreats, which is something that I'm hoping to, I've been doing virtual retreats, which are great, but I am going to be returning to in-person ones in the fall, which I'm so excited about because I feel like we've all just been so deprived of human connection. And to me, like those in-person retreats are like the most beautiful, magical things. It's like you just get a group of, in essence, like strangers, but you get people together and they're all just there to like unwind and reset. And like, usually it's to do something for them, which when do we ever do that? Let's be real, or at least do it in the capacity of like going on a retreat. And that's where we can really like dive in, and we spend anywhere from 3 to 8 days together, just doing yoga and meditation and like some workshops. And usually it's in a really fun location, whether it's domestic or international. And so, you get to go and, hike a glacier in Iceland and then come home and do some yoga nidra and go to bed. Like It's just the most incredible, like awesome thing. So that's that. Those will be returning like in the fall, and anyone that wants to come, it really is like or any retreat in general. It's really special. And then trainings, are like my other secret love, because I love teaching, and I love especially teaching, yoga nidra, restorative, and meditation are like the softer sides. So giving people the tools that they need to be able to either for themselves. I have a lot of people that take trainings without any intention of teaching, right? They really want to learn. They want to learn about the history of meditation. They want to learn about, they want to take an entire module on the anatomy of meditation because they like to learn. And so I do trainings usually either in a weekend or sometimes online, like for the meditation teacher training. And that is where I just share so many things. And if you ever I get made fun of sometimes, but I appreciate it, where people are like, I've never seen anyone get so excited to teach like a history lesson. And it's true, but it's just like, I just get so excited. I'm so passionate about it that I just love sharing. And so those are always really fun get-togethers where we just get to get together and learn a new skill and really dive deep and do like all the things.
That's awesome. And do you teach people how to become like meditation instructors?
Yep. So those trainings that I do, they are, you will then be able to be a teacher of that thing. So a meditation teacher, or you could be a restorative yoga instructor or a yoga nidra instructor. So you can either do a one-off, you can get continued ed credits, because I'm a continued ed provider through Yoga Alliance. And then also like, for people who are in the US, like ACE and, the other kind of like group fitness things. But yeah, I teach people how to be teachers, which
that's awesome.
I love it. And there's nothing more exciting to me than like watching like my students like go out and then like teach their classes and, like share. Cause I think so many people have like dreams of being teachers, or like they love something themselves. They'd love to share it with people. So I love giving people those tools so then they can go and like make that dream a reality.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is so awesome. Okay. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to add or talk about? Something that you think maybe the listeners might benefit from hearing or listening to?
Okay, I'm going to do something really woo-woo right now. I'm going to like just ask the universe if there's anything I should share.
I'll give you.
Okay.
As many minutes as you need. I'll be here.
All right. So I think one thing that I want to add, which is another thing that sometimes I get teased for, but it is like one of my more common sayings, which is don't be afraid to be someone's goat cheese. And I think I probably I may have emailed this to you or not, but And the reason I say that, don't be afraid to be someone's goat cheese, is basically me saying like, don't do something because you're afraid that someone might not like it. And this has been such a powerful message for me, and reminding myself that like, so the reason I say don't be someone's goat cheese, I hate goat cheese. I don't know. Do you like it?
I love goat cheese.
Okay. So let me, okay. The reason I say goat cheese is because there are so many people, and all the people in my life that love it. They're like, no, Kelly, let me tell you, the way that I make this thing.
Yeah. Like, what did you not have?
It literally, like even the smell, no, I can't. Like,
not even that smelly of all the cheeses. There's so many,
but there is something about it. And like, I've had so many people try to sneak it into a dish. I take one bite and I'm like, I swear, I'm like, is there goat cheese in this? And I can taste it. And I've had friends that try to sneak it. It never works.
Oh my God.
But my point is, there is like goat cheese is just goat cheese, right? But there will be some people that absolutely love it. There will be some people that detest it. And it's not because you detest it that then you're going to like go to the grocery store and like demand that all cheese be like removed from the shelves, or because you love it, you're not going to like be like, no, this is the most superior of cheeses or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You will always be someone's goat cheese, meaning someone will always love and adore. There will always be someone that is like, your podcast changed my life, right? And then there will always be people that will be like, I listened to your podcast for 5 seconds. The sound of your voice made me want to put a fork in my eyeball. Which someone told me once.
Yeah, people are like, what are so? Just, why do you comment? Just don't listen. I just don't understand.
I mean, fair.
Like, who hit you? Like, who hurt you? Like, I hope no one did. But like, seriously.
But it's just, it is. And so for me, such a powerful like reminder is then I can kind of laugh about it and be like, well, obviously I'm that person's goat cheese. But like, I have to remind myself that when I am being my most true and authentic self, and like when I'm just sharing what I have to share, some people will love it, some people will hate it, and some people will just be indifferent to it. That should not change what it is that I'm doing. And that shouldn't change the fact that I'm trying to like pursue what it is that I want to do. Mm-hmm. And that I think sometimes, and I like this analogy because it does bring some humor into it, because it can be really hard when people are critical of your stuff, when they just genuinely don't like your work or say something mean as a person. But when you can just kind of be like, well, obviously I'm that person's goat cheese, that you can kind of take some of that, I guess, ownership out of it and just recognize and remind yourself that you can't please everyone. Yeah. You just can't. And it's not going to happen. And you can't, if that's what you're waiting for, you will never, start a project. You'll never do anything because someone will be critical of it or not like it. And I think it's just so important to remember that that's just a part of life. That's a part of this process. And, you will run across people where you'll be their goat cheese, and that's okay. And so you just have to continue to like walk your path and do what feels good and right to your soul. And, if that's how they feel about it, that's how they feel about it.
Yeah. I love that analogy. That is so perfect. And it's so
people do love or hate goat cheese.
I didn't know that. I just thought everyone loved it.
None.
And I thought if you didn't love it, you just didn't like it. I didn't know that I didn't know they were haters.
I'm a hater of goat cheese, but I just let the lovers love. I let it stay on the shelves. I just choose not to buy it, which I think is another good lesson. Like you said, like, why do people send ridiculous, like emails, like hateful things? Like, just don't listen, or like, just don't buy the cheese, or don't like, but also I challenge people to like, maybe where where can you do a little bit more of that in your life? Like, is there someone that like they are the goat cheese in your life? Like, just let them be that, and just let them do it. You don't have to
distance yourself from them.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is so good. Thank you so much. This was so valuable and so insightful.
No, thank you.
I
really appreciate it.
No, you're so welcome. And like, I feel like I also want the listeners to know that this is okay, because I feel like your podcast for me was what I needed in that part of my life. Right. Mm-hmm. And then we grow, we change. And now it's just, there's no coincidence that, I don't know if I said this. I know I said this before we started recording. I don't know if we said it when we were recording, but like literally today I was going through my podcast and I was like looking through, seeing what I wanted to listen to. And I was like, oh, Mindful in Minutes. I haven't listened to that in a while. I feel like I need that right now. And then I remembered, I'm like, I'm interviewing Kelly Smith. Is it not that Kelly Smith? I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, it's not that. I'm like, wait a minute. And then I go and I look and I'm like, oh my God, it is. Oh my God. It's just like, this is not a coincidence. So I'm so excited to start listening to your podcast again. And, because also too, with the meditations, I've talked about this on previous episodes, my morning practice is something that I've been doing for years, like probably five years at this point. And because of the recent move, I kind of got away from it. And then I was becoming, I don't know if it was the move or whatever, and I was like more anxious, like really anxious, like really like not helpful anxiety. I was like, what is up? And then I'm like, oh, well, you know what? You haven't sat down and meditated in a solid month. So like maybe you should get back to your morning meditation. And so I've been doing it where I like follow something on YouTube or, you know, I'll put up, like I have the Peloton app, they have meditations or whatever. But I'm noticing even with those, I'm like kind of distracted. Your voice, I don't know who said your voice is annoying because they are ridiculous. Your voice is very soothing and very, it really did help me bring the focus to where, you know, on my breath, or you would like, or look at something or pay attention to how I was feeling. It really helps center me and give me guidance. So I'm just like very excited to start listening again.
Oh, good. I love that. And I always tell people, cause you know, people are like, well, who are the great meditation teacher? Or like, what's the best meditation? Who should I start with? And I always tell people like, you just need to find the teacher that resonates with you. Mm-hmm. So whether it's, you know, their voice or their guidance or whatever it is, like there's so many teachers out there, and it's just important that you find the one that just is the right fit and that makes you want to practice and that helps you, you know, lead you and guide you through your practice. And that's really all, you know, that's what makes a great teacher.
Awesome. All right. So remind everyone again where they can find you, connect with you, reach out to you, do a workshop, retreat, training, all the things.
You can do all the things with me. I would love to have any and all. And so my website, yogafreeonline.com, always a great place to start. That's where all the things are, you know, sprinkled all over. You can find me on Instagram at yogafreeonline, and I do answer DMs. So if you have questions or thoughts, for me, you can just send me a message. I don't always respond like really fast, but I will respond. And then wherever you're listening to our voices now, you can find Mindful in Minutes, or if you are in that prenatal postpartum journey, you could look for Meditation Mama. It's on all the podcast places.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much, Kelly. Guys, definitely go give her a follow. If you're not already subscribed to the Tips with Tony podcast, definitely want to hit that subscribe button so you get notified when a new episode comes out. Now on Tuesdays and Thursdays, made a recent change. Much better for my mental health. Let me tell you, I was doing 3 episodes a week before that. That's 2 episodes a week are so much better for me. I'm just immediately happier. Maybe that's why I was super anxious.
That is a lot.
That is a lot. So anyways, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if anything said in this episode resonated with you, if we taught you anything, please screenshot this episode, share it on your story, tag me, tag Kelly, or share it with a friend if you're shy, but try not to be shy. The more we are open about our journey, the more we're helping others. So don't be afraid
to be someone's goat cheese, everybody.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. What is your true self telling you? Telling you to share this because it helps you. Yep. But yeah, so anyways, that is it for me today. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being here. Thank you guys for listening. As always, this is Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.